Welcome to my Introduction to Networking course, typically abbreviated ITN. This will be for the CCNA version 7 curriculum. Module 13, ICMP. So what's really interesting about ICMP is it really is what ping is built off of. So in this module, we're looking at ICMP and ping and traceroute testing. So we start off with ICMP. First of all, what does ICMP stand for? It's called Internet Control Message Protocol, and it provides the basic feedback about issues related to the processing of basic IP packets under specific conditions. Normally ICMP, if we're looking at version 4, it will use a IPv4 address, or if we're talking an IPv6 network, we're using ICMP v6. The basic functionality of ICMP is about host reachability, end-to-end connectivity, and looking at destination or service reachability. Can we reach out to a host on a LAN or a WAN, and is it responding? And another feature for ICMP is looking at the time exceed limit, looking at how many hops it takes between source and destination. Now keep in mind that we have the ability to send a echo request to a destination. That doesn't mean that they have to reply. That doesn't mean that they're not reachable. It could just mean that they have ICMP disabled. So there are some caveats with ICMP, such as you can actually turn it off so it doesn't actually respond. So what happens with host reachability? Essentially, we can send a echo reply to a destination. The destination should get the echo reply and then should send a reply. So again, sorry, I said echo reply. The source will send an echo request. The destination will send an echo reply. The request is requesting a reply, and assuming it's not disabled, it should respond with the reply. There are different types of flags in an ICMP header. Some of those flags are things like 0, 1, 2, and 3. Not reachable, host unreachable, protocol unreachable, or port unreachable. Different forms of unreachability. If we're talking IPv6, some of the flags for unreachability are no route or destination, that'd be 0. Communication with the destination is administratively prohibited, meaning there's an ACE or an ACL preventing the communication. 2 is beyond the scope of the source address. It's not reachable. 3 is the address is unreachable, and 4, the port is unreachable. Now keep in mind, this is only one of the tools when we're talking destination or service unreachability. If we are looking specifically at the ports, we would probably use a different tool for port verification, something like Netcat, that can actually be used to send specifically crafted packets to specific port numbers, where ICMP, it can, but it's not its main purpose. Moving on is our time exceeded limit, or TTL, expiration. Remember that TTL is built into layer 3 in packets, and once a packet has a TTL of 0, the routers will discard it. Each time a layer 3 device looks at a packet, that packet will be decremented by 1. That way, if we exceed our maximum hop limit, then the packet will expire, not allowing it to live forever. Note that the time exceeded messages are used by traceroute as well. It's not always about ICMP. Now let's look at ICMP v6 specifically. Here we have both discovery protocols for our routers and our neighbors. With a typical IPv4 network, we could be using ARP, Address Resolution Protocol, and that's one way to detect the devices on our local network. Well, with ICMP v6, we actually have the ability to just send out solicitation messages. If you're looking for router information, you'll send out a router solicitation or layer 3 solicitation. If we're looking at devices that are attached to the network, that'll be a neighbor solicitation. And the typical response should be a router advertisement or neighbor advertisement. The router being the router, and all devices on the LAN being the neighbor. These allow for the sharing of information in the purpose for communication. Again, similar to ARP, but not quite the same. ARP is for an IPv4 network, where these messages specifically are for an IPv6 network. So again, we may have a router solicitation. A device comes online, wants to know what's going on, so they will send out a router solicitation. The router will receive and then respond with a router advertisement. Router advertisements are sent to any IPv6 enabled device, and this is typically done every 200 seconds. This provides the addressing information. So hosts don't even have to send an a solicitation message unless they want to receive the update quicker than the 200 default seconds. The RA message will include addressing information, the prefix, the network, the DNS, and if appropriate, a DNS or a domain name. Not just DNS, but the domain name will be part of that router advertisement. A host that is using Slack, stateless address auto-configuration, will set its default gateway to the link local, not its global address, but the link local, typically an FE80 address, to the router. So here we have a global unicast address, a GUA. That's the 2001 address. If we're using Slack, we will use the FE80::1 address. Again, link local addresses are private addresses. They're only allowed on the LAN and do not allow for outside communication. The link local address is only on the LAN. If Slack is not used, then again, we will go the solicitation method. PC will come online, the PC will send out a RS, the router should then respond with an RA message. Basically, R1 will reply with an RA message, all IPv6 enabled devices, here I am. So again, there are some default timers here that are in play that if we are using Slack, should actually help auto-configure IPv6. And they make use of ICMP v6 in order to do that. There is a duplicate address detection mechanism, DAD, that is not required, but is recommended for our unicast addresses. And this just enables verification that not more than one device has the same randomly generated IP address. So what ends up happening is we can actually use our MAC address to kind of figure out how we can do our solicitations. So here we are going to determine the MAC address of the destination. It's going to be our router. and we will send a neighbor advertisement to obtain that information. The neighbor advertisement assumes we already know the layer 3 address, and we need to figure out the layer 2 address, similar to what ARP does. So the neighbor advertisement will send out a message, and then the response should be a neighbor solicitation. The router will respond with that solicitation of our addresses. It is kind of weird because normally you'd expect the solicitation, but the solicitation is typically sending of information. In this example, the acknowledgement is a little weird because our neighbor advertisement should be what's sending the request, and we should be getting a neighbor acknowledgement showing that we're confirming that information. But we will break this down a little in more detail in our IPv6 chapter, why these two types of addresses are slightly different. Alright, so moving on. ping, and traceroute tests. In our routers, we can, or our switches, we can ping from the exec mode. We can ping either an IPv6 address or an IPv4 address. Ping, type in the address, that's it. If the first one fails, that's typically because we're doing ARP or a neighbor discovery of some sort. The responses actually do make sense. And what I mean by that is, here we look at a period or an exclamation point. Well, those actually have a very clear definition. Typically, the exclamation point means everything is appropriate and it actually received a reply. A dot indicates the network server is timed out, waiting for a reply. A U is a destination unreachable error because a PDU was received. A Q is the source quench, basically a destination too busy to respond. A M response could not be fragmented. A question mark means an unknown packet type response, and an ampersand will mean a packet life has exceeded. It's important to know these because on the CCNA exam, these are things that pop up that people don't always think about. So from a PC, we can test our local connectivity by pinging the loopback address of our host. That is 127.0.0.1. If we're using IPv6, it's : 1. Basically that says, look at me and make sure the network stack for my local device is functioning. Next, we can have the ability to ping our default gateway. That's our exit point. You would ping our gateway. If we get a reply, that is going to be the destination. We send anything that is going to be leaving our network or that is not attached to our local network. And that'd be ping the IP address of that gateway. If we're looking at communicating with a remote host, we could ping the remote host. What would end up happening is our request will go to the default gateway. The default gateway will process and forward it accordingly. The destination should get a reply message and then craft it and then respond with that reply, sending it to its default gateway, and then its default gateway should return our requested reply. And that way we can verify remote host connectivity. Again, it's important to point out that a no response is not saying that the host is down. It could just be that the administrator or administrators throughout the network have decided to disable ICMP traffic through the network. So do keep that in mind. All right, moving on, let's talk about traceroute. Traceroute, if you're dealing with a device. TraceRT if you're dealing with Windows. So both of them provide a hop by hop count of the way the packets are flowing between source and destination. Source being your computer and destination being whatever you're trying to look up. Here in the diagram, you'll notice that we have different hops and we have their speeds. Sometimes we'll get a asterisk instead of a response. An asterisk is used basically to say a host packet was either lost or a host didn't reply. Again, the host is subjective, being any layer 3 device along the network that should have been responding, or the destination also could not be responding. So the asterisk is a catch-all. Basically, this allows you to look at the path that the packets are taking. In this example, the first message sent from the trace route will have a TTL of 1. This will cause the TTL to time out after the first hop. The trace route will then progressively increment itself to each hop. Each hop, the TTL will be slightly increased. The second hop will have a TTL of 2, the third hop will have a TTL of 3, the fourth hop will have a TTL of 4, and so forth. That way, we get an echo reply from each device. We actually do have a packet tracer lab going through all of this. We have a packet tracer lab looking at both IPv4 and IPv6 connectivity. And that is actually all for this chapter. We have several labs covering the use of ICMP, how to build a network, how to troubleshoot, and things of that nature. In this lecture, we looked at what ICMP v4 and IPv6 are used for, how they function, how IPv6 uses ICMP v6 for both solicitation and advertisement messages. We looked at both ping and trace route and some of the uses that we could get from them in the troubleshooting process. That is this chapter in a nutshell. If you have any questions or concerns, please reach out. Thank you.